Good morning. It was on Monday of this week that in Oklahoma City here, we celebrated the 26th anniversary of the Murrah building bombing. It's hard to believe it was 26 years ago this past Monday that terrible day happened here in our community. I was just 5 years old whenever it happened, and I have some very vague memories of it. I remember after the bombing took place, going downtown with my family and taking donations of food or supplies or whatever it was that people were asking for. I remember at St. Luke's that we were doing so much to help respond to the needs of the community at that time, and we were opening up our doors for people to come and stay there, and we were answering phones and being a place that people could come for the Red Cross. I have some vague memories of it, but I remember that it was one of those days that changed our world, changed our community and our lives forever. Well, it was on Monday of this past week that they held a service downtown at the memorial to commemorate the anniversary of this terrible day. They had a number of people that came to speak and be a part of the service, and it was a beautiful service. But one of those people who came to speak was Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General for the United States. Merrick Garland, at the time of the bombing, was the one who actually was responsible in those earliest days of helping to put together a case, helping to lead the trials in the very earliest stages against Timothy McVeigh. He was helping to coordinate the efforts between the federal and local officials. So he was here on the ground immediately after the bombing and was right there doing all of the investigation, part of everything that was going on. But when he came back to speak this week at the service, he talked about his experience and what he saw here in Oklahoma. He said that as they came and they were starting to do their investigations and they were putting their team together and they were working down at the bombing site and they were going out and doing interviews, and he said it was so crazy. There was so much that was happening. And yet he said constantly, they never had to worry about what they were going to eat. There was always food available for them. He said he doesn't remember what the food was, but he remembers that there was always food available, that they had a place to sleep, that all of their needs were taken care of. He said 26 years later, it is still stuck with him, that in the midst of our deepest pain, our loss here in our community, that we were working to take care of the needs of strangers and making sure that they had everything that they needed. He said that they had never experienced that kind of hospitality, that kind of kindness anywhere before. All the first responders who were coming in, not just from here in Oklahoma, but they were coming in from across the country to help dig through the rubble and looking for survivors or looking for those who had lost their lives in the bombing. They were coming and they were working 24 hours a day around the clock, digging through the rubble, helping to respond. Some of these first responders who had come in from other places, well, they were used to traveling around the country. Anytime that there was a major disaster or an emergency, they would go and help others respond. They said that when they went to other places around the country, they never knew what the accommodations might be. It was often very rudimentary. They might be sleeping on cots or on the ground somewhere, or they weren't sure what kind of building it would be in. They would probably get food, but they didn't know what it would be. Said that wasn't the case when they came to Oklahoma. Now, we put up all of the first responders at the Waterford Hotel down in downtown Oklahoma City. Probably the nicest hotel that we had in downtown Oklahoma City in those days. We made sure that everybody had a nice hotel room. They were getting the finest food that we had to offer. People came in and they figured out a system where they could come and pick up their laundry every evening, and they would take it overnight and have all of their clothes laundered and cleaned and returned back to them in the morning so that they would have fresh clothes to put on. Now, the first responders started joking and saying that they had never experienced that kind of kindness. They had never had such nice accommodations anywhere that they had been in the country. The only thing that they were missing was chocolates on their pillows at night. Well, you can imagine that night when they got back to their hotel rooms, what was waiting on their pillows? Chocolates. As a community, as a city, we came together. And in our time of deepest hurt, in our time of grief and loss, we came together to show kindness to strangers and neighbors alike, to anybody that was in need. Looking back, I think what we learned as a community during that time is that it's in our times of grief, in our times of loss and sorrow, that when we're able to look beyond ourselves to show kindness to another person, when we're able to look beyond our own grief to respond to the needs of others and to bless life, it actually does something for our own soul. It brings us healing. It helps us to find joy again. We've all experienced what it means to have loss, to have grief, to experience sadness in our lives. And it's in those moments that if we can look beyond ourselves, if we can find the opportunities to show love to our neighbors and to strangers, if we can look beyond ourselves to find a way to bless life, it does something to bring healing to us. And it takes us from just being victims to being the survivors whose lives have been changed forever. It takes us from a place of helplessness to a place of strength, where we can reclaim that joy that God wants us to experience in this life. We've all been there in our lives. We've experienced wounds and pain and grief and loss. But it's the good news of Easter, the fact that we are the Easter people, that we are reminded that the worst thing is never the last thing, that we can respond in kindness and in love, and that we can find joy and new life again. I hope you make today a great day.